So as my goal to watch one movie a night for one entire year I started with the movie that just waiting for the right time to watch it. I heard this movie's pretty iconic, heard great things about it, and then I finally watched it, and I did not like this movie at all. And that is Risky Business. Now, what this movie is about, it's about Tom Cruise, who is his character, who's a teenager, and he ends up getting not lost, he ends up home alone. It's basically the plot of Home Alone with strippers. Except there's no burglars. But, there's hot babes and Tom Cruise in his underwear, so I think that's the best way to describe the plot of this movie. Now, I will say, this movie is iconic. It is referenced a lot, but this movie is bad. And the reason it's bad is because you ever watch one of those old movies that you watch and you're like, that feels like the time it was made in. And not like in a good way. Not where it's having fun with it. It feels like, kind of homage to classic things. Like, well, that movie feels like the 80s. It's homage in the 80s, having fun with it. No, this movie feels like 1982, down to the music, the tone of it, and it's so dated that it's unwatchable. Just now, I just like, and the plot of this movie all hinges on things that would never happen today, right? Like, because the way the kid, involves with the strippers and stuff, there's so many ways this kid could get the exact same thing with the internet now and have a better time, right? And that's what kids do now. So it's very unrealistic to what we do now. And so I think this movie doesn't hold up for that reason. But it would be okay if this was a fun movie. I don't think this is a fun movie. I find it very slowly paced for the type of movie this is. Like, it's a very slow movie. It doesn't really move very quick at all. It's just not a very good movie. And it's also weird because I'm sure this was fine when you watch this in 1982. Tom Cruise was an up-and-comer. We didn't know what he was capable of, and, I'll be honest, a lot of people ask me if I like Tom Cruise, because I do talk a lot of negative things about Tom Cruise. Here's what I'll tell you. I do not hate Tom Cruise. Not at all. But when people ask me, do I like Tom Cruise? There are two answers I have. I do not like movie star Tom Cruise, movie action star Tom Cruise. I like dramatic actor Tom Cruise, stuff like A Few Good Men, things like that. I like that Tom Cruise. I do not like action hero Mission Impossible Tom Cruise. That's just a personal preference, but that's my thing, right? I don't like that kind of Tom Cruise. And this feels more like that, but also a more dated version of that, because this does not feel like Tom Cruise, a teenager who can't get laid, or whatever. And that's the main point of the movie, is he can't get laid. But, he's Tom Cruise. You see that face and you're like, bro, you've been married 7 times. Has it been 7 now? I don't even know how many times this man's been remarried. But, this man's been remarried a lot. Every woman who's ever worked with Tom Cruise, just prepare yourself. You're going to end up getting married to him. Just prepare it to happen, okay? You're going to get married to Tom Cruise. It's just going to happen. So just plan to put that ring on that finger and marry the dude, okay? Just plan it. It's just going to happen, okay? So, I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point. But yeah, it wasn't a good movie. I think the people who were telling me it was good is because it was iconic. And to be fair, the scene where he dances in his underwear, I have seen parodied so many times that the actual real version has no effect on me. And that's the whole thing about this movie. This is a movie that, there are movies that are iconic and they're referenced a lot, and then when you watch the original version, it still holds up. And then there's movies where they're so widely referenced, and you go back and watch the original version, and you're like, why is this so popular? This is just, you know, again, it's an old movie that you watch and you go, that is exactly the time it was made in, and not in a good way. You don't think, and so, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna keep this copy on Blu-ray. I'm glad I watched it because it is so iconic, but I'm not ever gonna watch it again. It's not a movie that I have any feelings for. I really don't like this movie at all. Not that it's a horrible movie, I just don't have any positive feelings towards this movie and, and the subject matter of it or anything like that. It just was a movie that I watched, and I mostly was bored through its runtime, didn't really have fun with it, because it was just like a very dated 80s movie. That's all I can say.